Hello, welcome to my third live broadcast from my YouTube channel, Carlo Levi Minzi. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You are already 959. Looking forward to make the 1000th, which will allow me to broadcast live without passing through another server. Today, I would like to talk to you about a very important partner of mine who helped me a lot in growing as a pianist and as a musician, and who has been an unforgettable partner. I'm referring to Norbert Brainin, a famous violinist who died in 2005. Norbert, I know that many of you are not familiar with music, so I will summarize his life to make sure that you can understand how important was this man. Norbert Brainin was born in 1923, so same age of my father. He was born in Vienna, Austria, and was educated in Vienna first. So before World War II, and therefore had occasion to be in the old German tradition, old what we call Middle European tradition. Oh, hi, Jenfemei. Thank you for joining us. Today we will be a little shorter, just 1 hour, but I am giving you something very interesting. And Norbert Brainin, as I said, was born in Vienna, in the Middle European, in the world where Beethoven and Brahms lived. And hello, oh, thank you, Jenfemei, again. He he was educated in Vienna, but was planning to go to London to study with one of the most relevant violinists and teacher of the time, Carl Flesch. And he was forced to leave early because of German invasion in Austria in 1938. So at age 15, maybe you Filipinos don't know what happened in Europe. I will summarize this very quickly. Thank you, Ambrosio Rosete. And in Europe, starting from the 30s of last century, Germany was under the government of a very dangerous man by name Adolf Hitler, and this man started also, among other things, started a prosecution against Jews. And this happened in Italy too after 1938 because of the alliance between Italy and Germany at the time, which led Italy into a war, into World War II. But this is another story. In any event, Germany invaded Austria in 1938. Austria at the time was an independent country, and unified Austria to Germany. So the racial persecution started in Austria too. So Norbert Brainin was forced to leave Austria earlier than expected. And thank you, Josan, for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not done it yet.
They subscribe already. If they don't subscribe, they are not there.
Uh-huh. Okay, sorry. My wife tells me that you are already subscribers. Sorry for this. Um, uh, and so Norbert Brainin went to London and was living with an uncle of his who was already there. When World War II started 1 year later, he was interned as an Austrian citizen, was interned, but was allowed to continue studying with Karl Flesch. And so he was working in a factory producing bombs, but in the meantime allowed to continue his studies with Karl Flesch. During those, he met two other Austrian refugees who were a student of Karl Flesch as well, and he became friends of them. And this is the most important part of the story, because with the two of them, immediately after war, he started a string quartet together with another man whom we were introduced to by Karl Flesch himself, because this man was married to a violinist who was a Karl Flesch student too. This man, the only British citizen of the group, whose name was Martin Lavett. Thank you, Akavi TV. Thank you, my wife, for joining us. And so in 1947, the Amadeus Quartet starting its career. And Norbert Brainin, who was a prize winner as a soloist, neglected his solo career in favor of his quartet career, which, as a matter of fact, became immediately successful. Immediately. So, even thanks to a famous British composer support, this man by name Benjamin Britten, and thanks to other different supports, they started a very successful career immediately, and toured throughout Europe, and later in the United States, Japan, etc., wherever. They played thousands of concerts and recorded and were immediately contracted by the most important label, the Deutsche Grammophon. So they recorded every possible string quartet, almost every possible string quartet for this label. So you can watch some videos of the Amadeus Quartet on the YouTube, of course, in different channels, and listen to their music. They were most likely the best string quartet of the 20th century. The career continued throughout decades until they had the first problem in 1980 when the second violinist of the quartet, Norbert Brainin, was the principal. The second violinist, Sigmund Nissel, got a heart attack. At this point, he eventually recovered, but doctors forced him to play 30 only concerts per year. Therefore, they managed to play 30 concerts as a quartet, 30 concerts, and we were playing different music, different chamber music, apart from string quartet, for the remaining part of the season. In that period, Brainin, Shidloff, and Lavet, the other three members of the quartet, recording some string trio music, all again for the Deutsche Grammophon, Deutsche Grammophon label. In 1987, I met Norbert Brainin. Of course, I had heard him in concerts many times in Italy. Of course, he played also in Milan, where I used to live at the time. And I had met him occasionally because we were playing in the same on the same cruising boat sometimes in early 80s. We took part in the same musical cruising, the so-called croisière musicale. But I really met Norbert Brainin in the spring 1987, when a common friend of ours invited us for dinner together in Germany, because he was convinced, and he was right, he was convinced that we had something to do together. There was a reason for us to meet. So he served us a gorgeous meal, and after this dinner, filled up of food and wine, he asked us to play something together. We had never done it before. Nevertheless, I got a few days ago, I got the video of that night, and we played together. And it turns out that somewhat we were able to play together well. Thank you, as Adam, for joining us. Thank you, Jim V. Thank you again, AKV TV. I don't understand Tagalog, so I don't know what you're right. Thank you, Claude and Channel.
They still alive. I thought they already sleeping.
Oh, you don't forget that now Italy has the daylight 7 times, so it's 9 o'clock. It's 9:30.
Naglilista ako dito.
And
Naglilista ako dito sa gilid.
Therefore, was talking about this story, and stuffed of food and full of wine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's go back to the story. In stuffed of food and full of wine, we played 2 Beethoven sonatas. And actually, we were together. And I didn't remember, and I watching the video. I didn't know the existence of, but he was happy of this, and also he was beating my shoulder after the performance. So, as a matter of fact, immediately after this drunken performance of 2 Beethoven sonatas, thank you, Secretary Nibebs.org, for joining us. And he invited me to
Hi, ma'am.
to
May...
take
Kala ko tulog na.
he invited me to take part in a concert he was giving with the other two members of the Amadeus Quartet. Of course, Nissel was not part of this for the reason connected to his heart attack. And we were going to play the Mozart trio, a string trio, the Divertimento for a string trio, and I was supposed to join them in the second half of the program playing together a Mozart piano quartet. That was supposed to happen in the following September. But things didn't work because something terrible happened in the meantime. In mid-August, the violist Peter Schildhoff died because of a sudden heart attack. And that was terrible because the surviving members of the quartet decided that after 40 years together, it was not possible to replace him, was not loyal to him, and was not even practically possible. They were certain kind of musicians. They were in the Middle European tradition. They were, musically speaking, German speaking. They couldn't find anybody of their generation and this who could really replace this man, and they most likely didn't want either. So they decided to disband the quartet and continued, of course, in different kind of chamber music. I thought when I heard this bad news, when I heard the bad news, I thought that also the concert was gone. But for some reason, Norbert Brainin, who reacted in an unpredictable way, he decided that he wanted to do the concert, to play the concert, and he wanted to play the concert with me only, so duo. I was, in the meantime, honored and frightened. Can you imagine? Norbert Brainin was one of the greatest violinists of the time. Even during his quartet activity, he had played some solo. He had recorded for the BBC, which is the English national radio. He had recorded with another famous pianist by name Lily Krauss. He had recorded the Mozart Sinfonia Concertante with the man who was just dead, Peter Schildhoff. So he had a career. He had played the Beethoven concerto with the orchestra. So he had done something even in his as a soloist. Was had recorded a Bach sonata for the BBC, etc., etc. I am not going to summarize his own activity because I cannot. But what happened was that this. Thank you, Sora Sami, for joining us. And this man had had a name, a career, not only as a quartet player. So the to play with this man was really remarkable. He was my father's age and was a monument of music. And I was a young conservatory professor. Can you imagine? So, in any event, the concert took place and went, well, according to me, was terrible as ever. But people liked it, and also Norbert Brainin liked it. Even that time he beat my shoulder. and he decided that he wanted to play with me again. As a result for this, we had extra. We played together for a long time. We played together for a very long time. Actually, from 1987 till his retirement, which took place in 2002, almost 8 years old, the man decided that it was time to retire. During those years, we also recorded a joint CD with. Let me see whether I can show it to you. Here we are. This. We played the complete Brahms cycle, 3 sonatas plus scherzo plus the Hungarian dances. Played around the complete cycle of the Beethoven sonatas plus Schumann, César Franck, a Mozart sonata. So we had a various repertoire, and this has been really remarkably a remarkable experience. I'd like to play for you. Please, my wife, can you help me 1 second? Just a few seconds, because this you can find on my YouTube channel. Since the anniversary. Well, actually, it's Beethoven Sonata Opus 96. You can find it, but we play a little bit, just a few. Let me see whether I can show it to you. Here. Can you see it? Can you help me? Now,
what?
My wife will help to focus.
What focus?
Let's see whether
just back the camera. They can see me again. Ayan siya. Yan yung sinasabi niyang namatay na, yung nagda-pianist. Yung asawa ko nung kabataan niya. Ayan siya. Siya yun nung kabataan niya. Okay. Ito yung kinukwento niya, yung kanya nakilala niya. Tingin mo. Ayan, balik na ako sa upuan ko. Nakaupo ako doon sa gilid, naglilista. Nakakon lang ako, subaybay.
So, just to show also the face of this man, I'd like to show a picture of the Amadeus Quartet, if possible. Let me see whether I can find it. Can you help me again? I want to try Amadeus Quartet. Let's see whether the Amadeus Quartet. Here we are. Let me see. Here we have a photo of the Amadeus Quartet let's see whether we can have it. Oh, here we are. Can you help me again? Hey,
What? Where is it?
here,
Where?
here we are.
Get the back camera, this right? No.
No, gira. Turn
Okay.
around. Yeah,
Turn
here.
around. Ito yung mga grupo niyang Herbert. Ito yung mata.
Norbert is the second from left. Um, the one on the extreme left is the British cellist Martin Lavett, and on Norbert's left is Peter Schidloff, the one who got the heart attack first. And this is Peter Schidloff, the man who died of heart attack in 1987.
Or heart attack.
The man who basically unwillingly caused the disband of the Amadeus Quartet. There are many pictures of them. In the web, you can find more. Of course, as you can see from the picture, Norbert was much younger than when we met. This is the story of the Amadeus Quartet. I think you would understand how important was for me this collaboration, because I learned a lot about music, of course. At the time I was in my early, when I played with him, I was in my early 30s, and he was a 64 years old man, and was basically was a very important person, not only because he was famous, but because he was a superman, was a very important musician, and he had many things to say to a young pianist. So in any event, we spent 15 years together. Of course, I continued my solo career. I am not I have never been a full-time chamber musician. I have played, of course, with various people, but not that much. My main career has been to play alone or with the orchestra. More recently with the orchestra, even more than solo, but still as a soloist. And as I said, this is very important for me, and is very fruitful. I already said in my previous, in my live streaming number 2, that in a history of pianists, there is always a violinist who plays a role teaching what we should learn. A reason for this is that piano is substantially a drum instrument. You hit keys and you get a sound. But you must learn how to simulate the quality of the violin. And therefore, you need the violinist to teach you, or somewhat to be an example for you. This is the reason. This is how. This is why pianist always had something to do with the violinist. Liszt was stunned by Paganini's playing when he heard him in Paris, and decided that he had to change his piano technique to be able to match him, and basically transformed his playing, modeled by what he had heard from Paganini. And this is in the extreme case. the collaboration between violinist and pianist continues. There is another famous case in the 19th century, which is linked to Johannes Brahms, who was a famous composer but was also a concert pianist. And he started his career playing with two violinists, one which didn't really influence him, and the other who really did. The second one, this one, the one we are talking, was Joseph Joachim, who was a very famous violinist and conductor at the time, and he played with him, concert with him, conducted the first performance of Brahms' first piano concerto, with the composer playing the soloist part, and was his mentor for a long while. Joachim also performed his Brahms violin concerto. Also, they had a fight about interpretation of his concerto, and in any event, Joachim played a very important role. Also giving advice on his violin writing. And after this, we have many more examples. I recollect, in my recollection, there is, of course, Rudolf Zerkin, who was a famous Czech pianist who emigrated in the state. He played with Adolf Busch, another famous violinist who eventually became his father-in-law. He married Adolf Busch's daughter, and then there are many more cases. Now I cannot remember everybody, but there are so many. And of course, this is the case of my personal case. So Norbert Brainin and I played together 15 years. Those years were fantastic, and of course, Beethoven played a big role. Brainin was a specialist, and Brainin, as well as the Amadeus Quartet, were specialists in Beethoven. The quartet recorded the string quartets, Beethoven's string quartet, at least twice for the Deutsche Grammophon label. And so we had great time together. As I said, we played Beethoven sonatas. One you can see on the YouTube, and two more sonatas are going to publish soon and to appear on the major platforms. There is no video, just audio, but will appear on the YouTube, not on my channel, but on the YouTube channel of the online distributor Route Note. What else? We can also, since we are talking about there is one more recording we had together. Sometimes, sporadically, we played also with the cellist of the group. The cellist, the Martin Lavet, you have seen him in. Let me see why I cannot find the recording. There is a CD of this. Let me see whether I can find it. How come we cannot find it?
What are you finding?
I must find. I want here. Found. Found. Here it is. I had not seen it, but I have it. This is the CDs. You can see we are together with Martin Lavette. You have seen him in the photo of. This is a CD taken from a live recording taken from a concert we had in Italy in 1995, sometimes in March, I think. We had this concert, and we played 3 trios, 2 of which are here in the. You can find this recording in the YouTube on the Route Notes channel. I think that was a very lucky performance. Norbert and Martin, especially Martin, were in a wonderful shape. And I don't know whether you have seen the movie by Stanley Kubrick, by name whose title is Barry Lyndon. In this movie, you can find for sure on the YouTube. One of the music, part of the soundtrack, is the second movement of this Schubert trio. The Schubert trio. This is the Schubert trio. Let me see whether I can show you the trio Opus 100. And the second movement of this is in the soundtrack of the Buried in the Movie. That night, Martin Lavette played this theme, which is for the cello, in a way that I have never heard and most likely will never hear. Everybody was stunned. We were very lucky to have this, and let me see whether I can play it for you. I can find on the YouTube. Really deserves to be heard. Just a few bars.
Madam, I need to go down. I need to go to toilet. The cell phone you monitor.
I cannot. I don't know how.
Yes, stop there.
Okay. And I'm trying to play for you something because really deserves to be heard, and then you can find. I'll try to. Robert, let me see. Here we call ourselves as Amadeus Trio, of course. Let me see. Here we are, and here we can play a little bit of this. This is what I'm talking about. So so you can hear how well he was playing. Uh, we have you see how lucky I was at the time. I could play with the top people. This is the story of Norbert Brainin. I'd like to play for you a little more of from my YouTube channel, and with Norbert there are two more videos. I hope I can broadcast also the video part, at least part of the video of this is a Mozart sonata. I hope you can see because my wife. Let's see. I'd like to start from the beginning. And you can see here a little bit more of Norbert with me. Let's see. Little. Now we start. Was in Germany. Here we are. Okay, now you heard. This was Mozart. Was a Mozart sonata that Norbert liked very much, and he liked to play it. We played sometimes. I hope that somebody else will join our to my YouTube channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can talk about music again. Um, this is my personal YouTube channel, and I'm trying to talk about music and to make people appreciate classical music. This is my aim, and this is the reason why I'm talking to you. I'm trying to talk about music and about musicians, about myself, and about the important colleagues I had to. I had the fortune. I was so lucky to meet and to work with. Uh, this is my aim, and I hope uh, I will be so lucky to involve people who are not familiar with classical music to get closer to this and to like and continue. Of course, I would like you to listen not only to my music but also to somebody else's and continue to learn new pieces and to hear more and more about this music, which is the most cultivated and important. There are a lot of pieces, of course. There are many composers, a lot. During my life, I have played tons of music. I have played alone and chamber, talking about Beethoven. We are today we are talking about Beethoven because the anniversary of his death, occurred just a few days ago, March 26th. And and therefore we like to talk about him. He was maybe if one of the greatest composer of every time, and I have played all Beethoven sonatas for piano solo, and all with the violin, all with cello, and also as well as some piano trios, not all piano quartets. I have played the piano concertos and so many things. Some a couple of piano quartets, and so I spent a lot of time with Beethoven. And I'm happy to have done so. I think that the importance of Beethoven in every musician life is very important. I had played and for you one of his most famous pieces, very well known even to non-usual listeners of classical music, the Fürelise, which actually is not clear whether it was written by Beethoven or not, because the manuscript has never been found, and and the first edition has been published 30 years after Beethoven's death. So, in an event, Beethoven is known for something that he most likely had possibly had never written. Um, this is what I'm doing, and what I have been done for almost 50 years. As I repeatedly said, I'm going to celebrate my 50th anniversary of concert life. I have started playing even much earlier, but my concert activity started in 1972, still student. And therefore, as I said, I will celebrate next year my 50th anniversary as a concert pianist. This is the reason why this is something I really liked, and I still like. I love what I'm doing, and I would like to share my love with you, hoping to be able to. Thank you, Janine Morante, for joining us. And of course, I am happy to share my love with you and and hope that I will give you the chance to listen to this kind of music, which is very important. And this is what I'm doing. And as a matter of fact, another thing regarding Norbert Brainin, when his concert activity started to be less, he started also teaching, because he felt, as I did, he felt that he had to share his knowledge with the younger generation to continue this tradition and to continue this kind of knowledge. Norbert Brainin taught in Germany in two different institutions. He taught there was an Amadeus Quartet course held in Cologne in Germany, and then he taught violin in Weimar. Also, he also taught in Italy in a special school in Fiesole, which is a suburb of Florence, where there is a famous school of music, and he taught there for years. He liked it because he liked Italy. He he had a very nice villa in Tuscany, not far from Florence, in a place named Barga. He lived there. He spent many summers there, and then he eventually sold it because he felt that he couldn't no longer go so frequently. When he stopped teaching in Fiesole, decided to sell it. Really pity. It was a fantastic place. I have been there. We have a practice there, preparing concerts, and it was a fantastic. I liked it a lot, and he liked it too, of course. Norbert was fond of life as every musician, frankly. He liked, he was really, really, really big man. Was big man, was actually fat. Um, he liked good food, really, and but I fear that he liked to more to eat than to taste. And I remember the first time I invited him to dinner, and I didn't know him so well. I I invited him. I decided to spend a fortune to invite him in a very good restaurant, and the waitress, very nice girl, was trying to persuade him to eat the most refined pasta with the truffles. And you know, it was November, so it was the truffle season. And but even he stunned the poor girl, asking for some ravioli with duckling, ravioli with the meat sauce. The poor girl was stunned. She was offering something really refined, and he was asking her. But she got the man and brought him a portion which was almost double of what we usually we usually eat, and he ate it all. It was I was stunned myself to see how much he could eat. But he was happy, and so what shall I say? He liked food as very few people I saw in the world. Learned the lesson, and one time when I invited him to dinner another time, I invited another friend of mine, another big man, who was a famous mathematician as well as a composer of music, and and they went along very well because they had same test. This mathematician was another good eater, and actually they shared this attitude with with Johannes Brahms, who was fat as well, and was another good restaurant eater. And we got along very well, and basically exterminated the restaurant kitchen. Once we were at the time we were recording the Brahms CD. I showed to you just a few minutes ago. And so at the time we spent 1 week together for this recording, and actually we had two different sessions, one in June and one in July, and we play to record this double CD. And once I invited this mathematician, and we were that night we were, I don't remember how many people, but I think we were 7, 8 people or so, but the two of them ate more than the others 5, 6. Basically, they matched us. It was a very funny story. So, in an event, apart from these funny stories about Norbert, who was a man who liked life as every musician had a lot of things to say about musical life. He had met many people and liked to talk about the people he met and what they did, etc., etc. And he had learned a lot of music and of life, and was a very careful philosopher, and had something inside him which went far beyond music and scores. Very bad temper, difficult to stand, but everybody was ready to forgive him for since he was such a musician and such a great man. In the end, he was a very good man, and we miss him a lot. We miss him, and we miss the world which is dying, the world which he represented, the world that we have shared together. As I said in a previous in my previous live streamings, I really feel as a survivor, one of the last of the last representative of this generation. I am the last generation of a world which I fear is dying. I hope not, but I fear that we are dying and we are finishing being. I fear that the world is going somewhere else, and my wife keeps saying that I should adjust, but I fear I am not able. I have been trained in a certain way, and I fear that I'll have to someday. I think that a musician like me cannot adjust, and I think I'm going to die first before adjusting. In the meantime, I like to have a recollection of the world where I live, and trying to leave some sort of heritage of what I have done, what I have been part, the world I have been part of. And so this is another good part of this live record, of this live streaming. It's now time to finish this live recording.
1 hour already, Mike.
Yep, it's now 59 minutes and 48 seconds, 50 seconds, and it's time to say goodbye to my friends. Looking forward to seeing you in our next live streaming, and trying to publish more videos. Don't forget to tell your friends to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Carlo Levi Minzi, and to like my Carlo Levi Minzi pianist page on the Facebook page. And looking forward to seeing you again in a subsequent live streaming. Bye for now. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Bye.